When you create an appointment, you will then be creating a job at the same time. So we can see here on the board, I have created an appointment. That means I clicked new, I filled out the appointment info, and I scheduled an appointment on my dispatch board. When I did this, this created the appointment, which we can see here. I'm just hovering over, and it created a job. And everything is organized in job folders. I like to think of these as like digital file folders. Everything relating to this job is going to be saved in the job folder. So I've created an appointment, and that created job 15139, and it's a service call. I'm going to go into this job by clicking on the job folder. And every job that you have has this button right here. It says flag for follow-up. When you're doing jobs, as much as we want it to happen, to be perfect, we know there are things that are going to come up that requires some type of follow-up. Maybe your technician can't finish the job because they don't have the part that they need. Maybe you need to go do a like a quality check on a job for a new technician you just hired and you just want to go back and make sure they did a good job. Whatever the follow-up is that's happening, maybe previous to having a software, you used to write down all these things to remember on sticky notes. But instead, your WEX FSM system has a way for you to track these follow-ups and a place where you can see them in bulk and just make sure that nothing slips between the cracks. This is going to be your main way to communicate with your technicians for any follow-ups that need to happen. So whether you are creating the flag from the office, which is the view that we see here, or your technician out in the field will create a flag there, which they can do from the mobile app, you will click flag for follow-up to create a flag. And for this example, there's many different follow-up types. You can even click into here and create your own custom follow-up types. But for today's example, showing you how to use the flag for follow-up, let's say very common, we need to order a part. Technician is on location. They realize they don't have the part they need. Maybe the tech is the one making the flag, but we need to order a part. So we're going to select part order and then put in the information. So me personally, I do always like to start with the date. So today's 5/1 and what needs to happen. We need to order this part and then click save. Now this will show up as a flagged job. This has a flag on it. If we go back to the schedule, any job that has a flag on it, you will see the flag. This little red marker here is in front of it, but this icon in the corner is a flag. So you can see your flag jobs on the schedule. And when you're in the job, it will have a nice big red banner showing there is a flag on this job. If you click on the flag, it's going to show you the flag itself and the notes. And for this scenario, we need to order this part. So let's say that I order the part, it's going to come in next week. I would simply edit the flag. Maybe we ordered the part later in the day, so also on 5/1. Part ordered will be here Monday. And I'm just keeping a record of what we're doing on the flag, like a reminder, and hit save. What's nice, actually, before I hit save, you can always see the most recent update and who updated the flag from here and click save. And so, of course, this is just one job. So I will move on to my next job, and maybe that one's good. But then the job after that, there's another flag, and I'll add a flag to that job. and you will add multiple flags to any jobs that require a follow-up. Then you can go to the job list, and we actually have a shortcut for this by clicking flags. So, I want to see all of my flagged jobs in my system so I can just get an idea of which jobs require a follow-up. To do this, in the top right, it says flags. Click on that, and that will bring you to the job list with show flagged jobs only selected. And this will just show you currently, here's all of my flags in my system, every job that requires a follow-up in one glance. And you can see the follow-up type with this column here. So we have a part order, a sales estimate. We need to follow up with some billing, whatever it is. And these can be customized to whatever you need it to be. These are the different types of follow-ups that we need to do. And then I can click on each flag and edit and update these from here. So this is really powerful in your day when you are just looking at all your flags. You click into it, you make your updates, you order a part, update. You know, you're done. You finish this. You can mark the flag as complete and hit save. Once you complete that, it will be removed from the flagged list. And now uh, that has been completed. So you don't have to worry about that follow up anymore. This can also be done from the field. So maybe the scenario is the last piece of the puzzle is you order the part, the technician then needs to go out, install that part, and when they're finished, they'll mark the flag as complete from the field. Or they can message you and say, hey, job is done. Then you from the office can come to here. You can even search by date range, job type, job number, customer name, location, find the flag and then mark it as complete yourself from the office. But flags are just a way to remind yourself that a follow up needs to happen. And this is the job list where you can see and edit and update flags. You can also view job flags from the job summary report. And so let's have a look at that. We're going to click on reporting. And then we want to go under the jobs section to job summary. Now, the job list, and let's see if we can actually just look at the difference here. The job list is showing you your jobs, and you can edit and update the flags from here. The job summary report gives you a little more information about what's going on with this job. So I can see if there are jobs that have flags on them, and I'm just going to push the date back so we can get more options here. Okay, no flags. If there is a flag, you'll see this in red and you'll see that a job has a flag. In fact, if you want to isolate your flags on this report, you can choose show flag jobs only, which will allow you to see all your flag jobs. But, why would I use this if I can just do this on the job list? The job summary report, more specifically, lets me look at my appointment details, signed proposal info, and invoices. And this is a checks and balances, especially if you're admin and you want to make sure that your business is being run correctly. This will let me know if a appointment has been scheduled but not completed, what's going on with that? And then you can click into the job and kind of investigate further. So, for example, I can see that on the 30th for my customer, Jack, We had 3 appointments, but only 2 of them were marked as complete. No proposals were created and no invoices were created. So why is there a missed appointment? And, why didn't we charge the customer for the services that we did complete? I would click into the job and investigate, look at who was the technician. Maybe you want to just talk to them and see what's going on. Or you can look at the notes. Maybe there's something preventing them. Or most likely they just forgot to clock out from the mobile app. And then you can make edits and adjustments from there, which we will dive deeper into time clock in our last topic for today. You can go to jobs. Oh, sorry, settings, jobs, job preferences to set up your flag for follow-up preferences as well. You can make it so that, and I am talking about this section, flag for follow-up. You can make flags require an assignee, meaning that when you create a flag, you can assign that flag to certain users on your team, and you can make that required. And then you can also require a due date for a flag to be created. And let's show you an example of that. So let's go back to our job. This is another scenario or way that you could use flags. And let's look at our flag. And actually, I think we may have marked this. Let's refresh this. Yep, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to click flag for follow-up because I know that we need to order a part. So we'll select part order. But this assignee comes in really handy because you can delegate the flag to who needs to do this follow-up. If this is a part order, and I know that Allison is the one who orders all of our parts, I can assign this to Allison and hit save. Then, let's say I'm Allison and I show up for work. I can just go to the flag list, pull up myself as an assignee, and anything that's been assigned to me, I can see. And especially like if you're the one who's kind of delegating tasks out in the office to different office team members, you can just assign these flags to people. And when they show up to work, they'll look up their name and see any work, any follow-up that they need to do. And so Stephanie asks, if our deposits sync to QuickBooks, will QuickBooks sync to WEX to match the invoice that we've been paid? Uh, so I don't think so. Let's save that to the Q&A because that doesn't relate to what we're talking about right now. So that's good. Put your questions in. Um, let's see. In the schedule view, how do we set up to see? Okay. Cool. So that's good. So yeah, put your questions in. It doesn't look like any of these pertain to flag follow-up in particular. So Stephanie, we will do those when we get into the Q&A. Okay. So that is flag for follow-up. Being able to keep track of your follow-ups, very important. And this is how you will do it in your WEX FSM system. Next, let's look at proposals and proposal reporting. So let's go back to our scenario here. If we have a big install job or just a really large job that we're doing where we are going to create a proposal or an estimate, maybe this is a big commercial job, I will want to mark that as an opportunity The customer will either approve or decline the proposal, and you can track your close rate, like your win-loss rate, and just see how profitable are we being, how great are we at converting a estimate to a sale. And you can do that from the proposals report. But in order for that to happen, you need to mark your appointments, or sorry, mark your jobs as an opportunity. And you can do this from the appointment level, or you can do this from the job level. And I'm going to show you both. So hover over, we have our appointment here, and we can click on the appointment. When you're creating an appointment, if you want to mark this as an opportunity, meaning that this would be a job you want to consider in your close rate, click on Show Lead. And then right here where it says Opportunity, turn on Opportunity if this is a job that has an opportunity to be either won or lost. So that's one place you can do it. You can also just go into the job itself. So I'm going to hover and I'm going to go and click on the job to go into the job folder. And each job that you have has opportunity right here. So, scenario, if this is a residential call, my technician is going to go out, there's no proposal, just do the work, get paid. I'm not going to want to consider this as an opportunity. But if this is a bigger job, we're going to make an estimate, the customer is going to approve or decline it. I do want this to be considered an opportunity. Turn that on, and you just click on that, and that will, be able to set that as an opportunity. Then to keep track of all your opportunities, you will go to reporting. And under the jobs section, you'll go to the proposals report. So right here under jobs, we'll click on proposals, and let's set our date back. And there we go. You'll notice your close rate is here. Sales opportunities is how many jobs did you mark as an opportunity? And then opportunities one are going to be proposals that were signed, converted to an invoice, and you took payment. So like you actually made money from that job. And then the difference between those two, how many opportunities you have versus how many you won, will give you your close rate. And obviously, the higher your close rate, the better you are at closing those jobs and the more money you are making. And this is just a way for you to get a pulse on how good you are at converting jobs from just a proposal to a finished and paid job. So from the proposals report, track your close rate and make sure that in order for these numbers to be correct, you are marking those jobs as opportunity, whether you're doing that from the appointment level or the job level. That is a manual button you do need to click. That way the system knows what to consider in the close rate. And then just in general, from here, you can filter by date range, by proposal status, job type, and technician. Maybe I have a new technician and I just want to spot check their proposals, make sure what they're sending to our customers is, good and to our branding standards. Just select your technician. You can isolate per technician here. Next, let's take a look at managing receivables. So, very important when you're running your business, knowing what invoices do we have out there in the world and how can we get customers to pay those bills. To do this, let's go back to reporting. And we want to look for the receivables report. So under accounting, we have receivables. And the receivables report at first glance is going to show us all of our invoices in our system. And it will show you by date range. So if you want to look at invoices for the month, for the week, for the day, you just put in the date range you want to see. Then you can further filter those totals by job type, payment status, invoice status, technician, and then you can also just search for what you want to find. Now, this is going to have some filtered totals, which comes in handy. Let's see, let's go to April. So from April 1st to May 1st to today, these are all of the invoices that we have. So we can see our filtered totals are here. But I want to know out of this list, who owes me money? Which of these are outstanding? And then how can I get those customers to pay their bill? So we're going to use the payment status filter and we want to see who's overdue. So click overdue. And we can see from all of those receivables, this is now saying from April 1st to today, we have over $18,000 that we need to collect on. And to do this, you can either reach out to the customer, like it shows you the customer info here. You can reach out to them and do that individually, but you can also send a payment reminder. And this comes in really handy for collections. Click select all, send invoices, and send. That will send a payment reminder out to your customer, letting them know that they have a bill they need to pay. And it is really nice when you send out payment reminders in bulk and a lot of people pay their bill all at one time. Now, this is receivables. I would say one of the main ways you're going to use this is to send out payment reminders to get people to pay their bill. But if you were wanting to see more aging, you want to know how long has someone been overdue and is it getting to the 30-day or 60 to 90-day mark? And do we need to now escalate our collections for that customer? That would be better on the account receivable aging report. So let's go back to our reporting page. It's just in the main navigation here, reporting. And we instead want to go to accounts receivable aging. And then this report is still going to show you your receivables, but you will then be able to see the aging of these receivables. So it still has a way to pull up by customer, by status, by a date range. But once you have those filters in here, you will be able to see the amount of money of the aging report. So now, you know, how much money of our customers are only under 30 days delinquent versus 30 to 60 days versus 61 to 90 days, and then who is 91 plus days. And this just allows you to see a little deeper into how long someone has owed you that money for, so you can raise your collection efforts for those customers. So that's kind of the biggest difference between those two reports and some examples of how you might want to use those. Next, let's talk about time clock. So we're going to go back to the schedule page. In your system, there are two time clocks. There's the daily time clock and the job time clock, and those are separate. The daily time clock is more for tracking your entire day. For the office, if you work in the office, you're most likely using the desktop version of WEX FSM, and you will want to clock in and out for the day just to track your time working in the office. To do that, you will go to the numbers at the top here in the top right, click on that, and now this is just your time clock. You're punching in and punching out here. So clock in, we'll start that time clock. When it's time to go to lunch, take a break, you'll just come back to this page and clock out. Done with lunch, come back, clock back in. Now it's time to leave and go home, you'll clock out. All of those timestamps will be recorded throughout your day, and you can go to more applications, time clock, to see those daily time clock entries. And I've done a lot of examples of the time clock today, so I do have a lot of those entries. It will show you per block of time and totals per session, and then a total at the bottom. And this will show multiple days based on the date range. So if I was doing, payroll, let's say, I might want to do it by week. So I'll set my first date as the 27th to the 1st. And so now I can see here are my time clock entries. This is what it was for, the 29th, the 30th, the 1st. And now it gives me a grand total of how many hours I worked this week. Now, I will say this, WEX FSM is not a payroll software. We don't have a way to pay out to employees. Maybe you're using a software like QuickBooks for that, but this is where you can get totals and you can grab the info, the data from here on the time clock entries and enter that into whatever payroll software you are using. If you need to make an edit to this, you can click the red dots, the three red dots, and hit edit. You can also remove a time clock entry if you need to delete one of these. And let's say someone forgot to clock in and out for the day, you can just manually enter and select those times as well. Um, and so we were told our time clocks would sync over to QuickBooks. So you may want to, talk to whoever told you that, because time clock is not something that syncs to QuickBooks. So your technicians out in the field are able to clock time. You are able to clock time here from the desktop version in the office. You will be able to see those time clock entries in WEX FSM. But that is not a customer, an invoice, or a payment. Typically, the only things that will sync to QuickBooks are monetary based. So invoices, payments, those will sync down to your QuickBooks. Time clock entries do not sync. And we can dive deeper into that question in the Q&A if we need to. Time clock entries for daily time. That's what we're looking at right now. And the daily time clock from the mobile app, just to give you an idea what your technicians will see, is right here. So I'm on the mobile app. I see daily time at the top, and then I will clock in, clock out, and do that as many times as you need to. And those time clock entries will show on that desktop, on the desktop side. So you can grab those numbers for payroll. For the job time clock, that is separate. That is a different time clock, which will track on the job level. So let's go back to the schedule to see what that looks like. We've got an appointment here. Let's go to the job by clicking on the job number. And then from here, we have an appointment. So just to kind of calibrate ourselves, any job that you go to will have an appointments and service requests section. This will have any appointments that you've assigned to this job. And then usually it's your technician who's running that job out in the field, and they are going to clock their time on the job out in the field. And they'll do that through the technician status. And so if we go back to our mobile app, I'm a technician. I'm ready to start working on this job for Justin. I'll tap into the appointment, and then I am going to start the job time clock by clicking idle and en route. Usually I'm in my truck, I'm ready to start driving out to the job. I'll hit en route, and now that starts the job time clock. When I get to the job, I will hit at job. And then when I am done with the job, I will click complete. Um, so this is saying that I need to complete a checklist before I can mark this as complete. For this example, I'm just trying to show you this is where you're clocking in and out. So you mark this as complete, that will then complete this as a job. In this scenario, I have been required to finish these checklists, so I'm just going to go do that real quick. I mean, which is a feature that can come in handy if you want. You can make it so that your technician can't even clock out of a job and mark it as complete unless they fill out and complete the checklist, which maybe to make sure that the job is being done correctly, you put that in place. But we have now completed our checklists, and we'll go ahead and mark this as complete. All of these timestamps will then be saved at the job level. And so let's go back to our job here, and we will refresh. And there we go. And so when you're on the job, you'll be able to see in the appointments and service requests section, the scheduled time is the time that was actually scheduled when you put this on the board. And the actual time is what your technician would have clocked in and out from the job. If you need to edit this for any reason, just click on the actual time and make an edit. So let's say that either they forgot to clock in and out, or they accidentally clocked, but then they stayed an hour afterwards. There's scenarios where you may need to edit the time clock. And in this case, let's go ahead and say that they were on the way there from 12:36 to 1:02 p.m. That's when they were en route to the job. And then from 1:02 to 2:09 is when they were at the job and then completed the work. Now I've officially updated this, and we will be able to see that reflected in bulk in the time clock reports. So this is the easiest main way that you would edit time clock entries per job from the job page. But now maybe we want to see our time clocks entries in bulk. I want to look at multiple users. And to do this, we're going to go back to reporting. And for the job time clock, I like using the scheduled versus actual time report. So on the reporting page, under the users section, we're going to click on scheduled versus actual time. And let's set our date back. And there we go. So we can see the technician name, the date that they worked, the total appointment time, time off, other events, if you had any internal events they were a part of, unaccounted time. And it says right here, if you ever see this, just as a pro tip, if you see an I, hover over the I, and that will let you know a little more information. So this says represents the difference between total daily plan time and total scheduled appointment and event time. So what does that mean? If I clock into the daily time clock and I let that run throughout the day, anytime that I'm not also clocked into a job will be considered unaccounted time. So, we want to keep our technicians busy. So, in theory, there should not be a lot of unaccounted time. I start my daily time clock and then I clock in for a job, clock out for a job, clock in for a job, clock out for a job throughout the entire day. So, if you're noticing a high spike in unaccounted time, that either means your technician is forgetting to clock in and out or they're at the gas station. So, you may want to look into that if you see a lot of unaccounted time. But this is the place that you can easily check for that. And you can also search per technician if you want to really just isolate someone from here. And then you can also, for the daily time clock, dive a little deeper by going to the time clock total report. So let's go back to reporting and then time clock total. And from here, this allows you to put the clock in date and see a summary. So this just shows you your whole team at a glance and total time clocked within the date range that you set. And then you can see the individual breakdowns per user here. And this is for the daily time clock, not the job time clock from here. And any reports that you see like this in this visual format, if you want to download this information, there is a little like rectangle with an arrow. Click on that, and you can download this as a JPEG, a crosstab, which is like an Excel file, or a PDF or PowerPoint. And that would be looking into the daily time clock information. Okay. The last topic we're going to talk about before we get into our Q&A is internal events, and we call them other events. Let's go back to the schedule. And then from here, you are able to create an appointment. So we're just going to create an appointment like normal. Click new. But instead of choosing a customer and doing like a customer facing event, you can create an other event. And so this is another admin tool. If you're the one in charge of setting up sales meetings, or you want to put in everyone's birthday so you can remember birthdays on the job. Whatever event type you want, you can click the drop down here and either select from what's already here or create your own event type. And so now we're making custom events here. Let's say you want to set up a sales meeting. Every Monday I'm going to meet with my field technicians before they go out to the field just to talk about sales and, get our ideas together of how we want to approach the day or the week. Set your event type, let's say sales meeting. We'll go ahead and put sales meeting for the name here as well. We're going to meet in the break room, so I'm going to let everyone know the place and area. And then in terms of frequency, I want this to start on Monday, and it's going to repeat the frequency every week. So let's do weekly. And then I want to do it until, the end of the year. We're going to start doing this on Mondays just to get ourselves ready for each week. And the time, maybe I want this to happen before business hours. So we're going to do this from 7:30 to 8 in the morning. And then users, who do I want to attach to this event? I just need my field technicians for these meetings. So we'll select field techs. And then any description you put here that will be visible to your technicians. So maybe, don't forget to bring donuts and schedule. Now let's go to Monday. And then, keep in mind, we set this before business hours. So your calendar will always start at the first hour of your business hours. But we're going to scroll back. And now we have our meeting here. And this will show up on the mobile app. So, if you have an event or some type of internal event, that will show up in their list with their other customer events as well. Okay. That is all the information we have for today's presentation. I hope you guys learned something. We're going to move to our Q&A now. But before we do that, I just want to say thank you so much for joining. My name is Mark with WEX Field Service Management, and this has been Daily Operations for Admin Users.